Good evening, it is, alright, good evening. We're our May 27th and we are getting our meeting started at 6:32 p.m. We will call them.
Counselor Source,
Present.
Counselor Roden is excused, Counselor Boisvert,
Here.
Mayor Schwarzler,
Here,
Counselor Martin Willis is excused, Mayor Morton, are you?
Thank you for the elevation, President.
can I get the night out?
Counselor Moore.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, first up, we have the meeting minutes from our May 13th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a first by Councilor Core, second by Josh is gonna be.
What's your name?
The new mayor. Any discussion?
They looked good.
Okay, thank you, roll call.
Counselor Moore.
Aye.
Counselor Morton,
Aye.
Counselor Boisvert,
Aye.
Counselor Source.
All right, thank you. And do we have any visitor or public comments for tonight? No. Doesn't look like any, we're gonna move right on to reports. I'll be short and sweet today. Just a couple notes, we hosted SEDCOR, their board last week to have a lunch and had over 30 people in town to kind of talk about economic development and what we had planned and good connections, good resources there. Very excited to see the announcements on the bookmobile. People have seen that floating around on social media, so it'll be fun to see this year. And then also the 4th of July lineup has been announced, so excited and looking forward to that. And with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Assistant City Manager Sean Irvine.
Thank you. I don't have really much of anything to talk about, just a couple things to give you a heads up about. One, you probably saw we have started pushing out info for the summer series. River's Edge, that's going to include 2 movies. We're bringing 2 movies back this year, end of June and end of August. I want to give you a heads up that we promoted the first movie as Wicked. And then after we pushed that out, we realized it's almost a 3-hour movie. And that date it probably won't get dark till about 9:15, 9:30. So we're actually gonna we're definitely gonna be pulling that and swapping out the movie probably for Elemental, but you'll be seeing the official stuff coming out soon. So if anybody asks what happened to Wicked, but that is the reason, is we didn't think it was proper or necessary to run a 3-hour movie. Starting to get.
That's the first movie.
That is the first movie, this is June, whatever, the last Friday of June.
Could it just, since August, it's gonna get darker.
Yeah, we talked about it, but still it's a long movie for a late start. So maybe some other time, some other way. Only other thing, bit of news that I have to offer is kind of a spur of the moment visit. Lunchtime, the new regional administrator for HUD was in Oregon. He actually flew in Portland this morning, came down, met with Marion County Commission, the governor, and then came over to have lunch with us. And just because HUD staff identified us as a kind of a basic forward-thinking community working hard on housing affordability and other issues. And I'm sure it also didn't hurt that we were close to Salem. But it was great to have that level of staff in town, hearing all what we're up to. They wanted to kind of what kind of issues we were running into and what it's like working with the feds and looking to make things easier. So that's a good thing.
Good news.
And with that, I think that's about all I have for the management report.
Okay.
Sure.
Thanks, Mayor. And city councilors ride the bookmobile.
What's our insurance on that?
Yeah, I think I heard.
Honestly, I would double check, but I would say tentatively, probably yes.
Alright,
Ah,
probably. Yes.
As
It's
long
on
as
first.
you do it as a city volunteer.
Yes, absolutely.
but I would imagine it'll show up at the pickup for summer reading is coming up.
I would believe.
Summer reading, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess yes. I imagine you're gonna see it in a lot of places.
Good news.
Yeah, the 13th is the debut.
Great. All right, with that, we can move on to our first order of unfinished business. Looks like this goes to you, Amanda.
Perfect, so the first order of business is a second reading of the public hearing that you folks have had the last couple of meetings to annex 3 rights of way into the city of Independence. Those rights of way include Corvallis Road, a portion of Hoffman Road, and a portion of the old 6th Street that is just east of the new 6th Street. We did have public hearings on those, I think pretty much the last 2 meetings. We did address a number of the issues during those meetings, including the fact that the island annexation could not even occur if the road were to be annexed. So you did have a first reading and approved that ordinance through a first reading at the last meeting. This is before you for a second and potentially third reading tonight. Are there any questions for me?
All right, this is an action item and we need a motion.
I move to read the proposed ordinance council bill 2025-03 for the second time by title only.
All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any discussion?
The second, Walter.
Yes, sir. Any further discussion? None, we will do a roll call.
Councilor Source. Councilor Walter.
Aye.
Councilor Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Warren.
Aye.
Okay, so I'm gonna read the title, an ordinance declaring roadways annexed to the city of Independence and stating an effective date.
I move to adopt the proposed ordinance council bill 2025-03.
Second.
Right, first by Morton and a second by Core. Further discussion? And none, we do roll call.
Councilor Warren. Aye. Councilor Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Walter.
Aye.
Councilor Source.
Aye.
The council bill passed and will be assigned to ordinance number 1623.
All right, thank you. And then moving on to new business. I am gonna add in, sorry, one thing I meant to do, part of my mayor's notes. We do need to appoint an ad hoc committee member for the Independence Days. Councilor Roden is unable to do that, and so I would like to recommend Councilor Ford to fill that position. So this is just a quick action item. Do we need to vote on this? Or do we need to appoint Councilor?
Mayor, I move to appoint Councilor Core to the ad hoc Independence Days. And I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilor Source, and a second by Councilor Bolver. Further discussion?
Councilor Source.
Aye.
Councilor Walter.
Aye.
Councilor Morton.
Aye.
Councilor Warren.
Aye. Thank you for letting me go a little bit out of order there. Next up, the glasses, but under new business, public hearing, and again, Amanda, this is for you.
Perfect, there is a script in front of you for the start of the public hearing. If you would go ahead and read that would be great.
Great. This evening, we have a public hearing on LA-2025-02 to consider rezoning 4 properties totaling 19.39 acres along Gun Club Road from medium density residential to high density residential. City Council will make a final decision on the proposal based on a complete record, including the testimony received at tonight's public hearing. These proceedings will be recorded. This hearing will be held in accordance with the land use procedures required by the city and state of Oregon. This is a type 4 legislative procedure. At the beginning of the public hearing tonight, staff will identify the applicable substantive criteria from the city's development code, comprehensive plan, and/or state of Oregon statewide planning goals. For anyone wishing to speak, we are asking you to use the speaker cards that are provided. When called upon to speak, you must be recognized by the chair and you must state your name and address for the public record. Before we begin, does any counselor wish to declare an actual or potential conflict of interest in this matter? Okay, hearing none. I will now open the public hearing for LA 2025-02, rezoning 4 properties totaling 19.39 acres along Gun Club Road from medium density residential to high density residential. Can you please have the staff please report?
You betcha. So hi there, everybody. My name is Fred Evander. I'm the city planner here at the City of Independence. And tonight we're going to have a public hearing on the rezoning of 4 properties along Gun Club Road. Now, one of those properties is a quite large apartment complex currently. It's zoned medium density residential. And this proposal would take it to high density residential, which is probably the more appropriate zoning classification for it. The other 3 properties are directly to the south of it. They total something like 3.96 acres, and they're owned by one party, Partners in Community Living. The reason for the change is our housing needs analysis identified that we should essentially upzone more land from a lower density classification to a higher density classification in the city. They recommended 10 to 15 acres total. And this would help us achieve that by essentially creating 4 more acres of high density residential land within the city. Now, to do this, I went through and I analyzed Oregon State planning goals. And there's 3 in particular that I'll call out in my staff report. And Myra, you might want to go to page 51, so we're all in the same place, thinking about where we're at. Okay, there we go. So you can see there's sort of a Nebraska shaped set of parcels right there. And of course, I would call out that it's Nebraska shaped because I, in fact, am from Nebraska. So I look at that and that's totally Nebraska right there. And the top one is Legacy Oaks Apartments. That includes 18 buildings with about 196 dwelling units, right? It is in no way a medium density residential development. It was built in 2009, but it is considered a non-conforming use within that zone. Because of the density that's there, and because of the fact that those are, in many cases, 3-story buildings, doing something like high density residential just to the south makes a lot of sense. Also, the party that owns the property received a grant from the state of Oregon to do sewer and wastewater improvements there. And by upzoning the property, essentially, them and us have the opportunity to maximize the return on the state's investment of the housing in the area. Yes.
Thank you, Fred. Mr. Evander, sorry. So is it PCL who got the grant?
It's I don't know exactly.
It's Polk Community Development Corporation.
Okay.
They're working on acquiring the property from PCL.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, no problem. So this, I mean, so and in recognition of the fact that essentially it's high density to the north, this made some sense. Now, you will note, and I'll say before I get to the Oregon State planning goals conversation that I was getting to, you'll note that in our housing needs analysis, it recommends specifically where to identify some of these lands to potentially rezone. And I'm looking at page 50 of the staff report. It says, using the buildable land inventory for guidance, identify properties or areas that are vacant or partially vacant and have sufficient access to infrastructure but are currently zoned in a lower density zone such as RS, RM, or MX. That's completely a parcel like this. Prioritize properties that are close to existing services and amenities and are within a single ownership or a small number of owners. Again, this is a single ownership. It's fairly close to nearby amenities like the schools, like Central Plaza Shopping Center as well. Also, it's on a collector street, it's built next to multifamily housing, and just to the west of the site is, there's a little floodplain that helps buffer it from the west, and there's a topographic sort of thing, so that the single family homes across the street are actually higher than these will sit, so it minimizes any sort of scale issues that might be associated with the new development. To consider this, I went through the Oregon State planning goals. There's 3 that I want to call out, just so we're aware of them. Goal 5 is the natural resources, scenic and historic areas and open spaces. You will note my analysis of that on page 44 of this stuff, or of the packet. Some of the things just to call out there is a floodplain on the site, and to alleviate much of the concerns associated with that floodplain, they do plan on doing the majority of development outside of the site or outside of the floodplain. Any sort of impact that they are going to have to that, they're gonna have to mitigate in accordance with the FEMA pre-implementation compliance measures and all that sort of stuff. With regards to housing, we did receive 1 comment with regards to this. It was actually in support. They felt like this was good proactive steps to address some of the housing issues that are housing needs analysis and our housing production strategy identified. Basically, we're just using those plans and trying to implement them on the ground. They recognized it. They said, yes, that's well done, essentially. And then goal 12, you'll note in the attachment B, there is a goal 12 analysis for looking at specifically the transportation planning rule findings. And basically what you're supposed to do is show that with a zoning change going to a higher density zone, that there's not going to somehow be, you're not going to break a transportation feature. I went through that analysis, and because of how the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation rates work, by going to a high density use, you actually lower the amount of trips per unit because according to their thing. So if there's more units on the site, it's not a proportionate increase in the number of trips. Actually, the trip generation rate goes down, and actually the analysis shows that there's not a impact period from the rezone at all. And you'll note that in attachment B. Based on all of that stuff, this is completely consistent with our comprehensive plan, completely consistent with our Independence Development Code. My recommendation is approval. The Planning Commission saw this, and they unanimously recommended approval of this. And in fact, when we originally talked about it, we watched one of our videos afterwards, and they said, "How quick can we do this?" Because they felt like it was a good project. Based on all of that, my recommendation is approval. Are there any questions for me?
I know this may be out of your lane, Fred, but I know we need the housing. I'm supportive of that, but a couple of months ago, I said that the nation will be a nation of 65 plus versus under 18s by 2034. If you read the Oregonian today, Oregon's already hit that metric. So my concern is there any way that we can encourage developers to build for senior housing in this particular location, knowing that that's a demographic that's gonna be looking for housing?
Sorry, I can take a stab at answering that. I think that the short answer that I have heard before from folks like folks CDC is when they build affordable housing, they're building affordable housing for everybody. So there will be seniors using it. You know, obviously we can have that conversation with them when they come in to sort of say, hey, you know, if you have an interest in potentially doing a senior specific, you know, honestly, I'm not entirely sure what, you know, there will be some differences, but it'd be largely, I think, a pretty similar development. But I do know, I mean, their sort of stock answer to that question is, you know, affordable housing is affordable housing, kind of regardless of your age, and, you know, they've got ground floor units that are easily accessible. And they're, you know, doing those types of things to make it,
And I would agree with that, the people who are living solely on social security don't obviously have the opportunity to come up with more rent as years go by. So they need something that's a little more stabilized. I would encourage when you have those conversations with folks at CDC is to maybe have United Way in on those conversations, because they have built senior cottage clusters in Salem and done a remarkable job and have been able to rent stabilize those units.
yeah, sounds great.
And I would add in that, I have visited for a friend, a rent control housing development in Corvallis. And it's already filled up, it's extremely successful, and that would be another route to go.
Question for Sarah? All right, we wish to hear from everyone who's interested in this proposal. I have not received any testimony. Do we have anyone here that wants to speak either in favor or against? All right, any further questions? No? With that, I now declare the record of hearing closed. We have a recommended motion.
So the next agenda item is the motion and everything, the council bill, to consider the council bill.
I move to read the proposed ordinance Council Bill 2025-05 in full as the text is contained in the council packet for the first time.
Second.
Any question? All right, roll call.
Counselor Ford,
Aye.
Counselor Morgan.
Aye.
Counselor Wellmer,
Aye.
Counselor Source.
All right, first motion passes.
An ordinance amending the independent zoning map along Garden Club Road. And since it was unanimous, you could move on to the second motion.
I move to read the proposed ordinance Council Bill 2025-05 for the second time by title only.
Second.
Motion by Cooler, second by,
What's your name?
Morton.
Be sure to put that in the record.
What's your name, Morton?
Yeah. You can just call me MM, that's okay.
Yeah, you can tell it's been a holiday weekend. Feeling like it's a Monday. All right, any, we have a first, we have a second, any other questions? Not, roll call.
Counselor Source.
Aye.
Counselor Wellmer,
Aye.
Counselor Morton.
Aye.
Counselor Ford.
Aye.
This is an ordinance amending the independent zoning map along Garden Club Road.
I move to adopt proposed ordinance Council Bill 2025-05.
Second.
A motion by Morton and a second by Robert. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Counselor Source.
Aye.
Counselor Wellmer,
Aye.
Counselor Morton.
Aye.
Counselor Ford.
Aye.
The council bill has passed and will be assigned ordinance number 1625.
Thank you. And with that, we are moving on. Right, we're all done with our hearings? Done everything? Okay, perfect. Liquor license application. Robert.
I got moved to the big table tonight. Okay, good evening, Madam Mayor and City Councilors. Before you or in your packets, you should have a liquor license application for Costa de Oro, which is located at 286 South Main Street. They made an application for Oregon Liquor to Cannabis Commission for a full on-premise commercial liquor license. This is the little stores next to where you're used to be for that. I don't know what's the background, we've seen one of these, it's that long we've been doing it pretty regularly. Are there any questions about the information you get in your packet? Okay, well, I did do a background analysis of this application. And following that, I see no reason why it wouldn't get approved, so the recommended motion would be to recommend approval of the above liquor license.
I did have a question just related to the location. I noticed that work is going on the windows on the second story of that location where the Costa del Oro or de Oro is down below. Is that going to impede business for a while there or not? On the restaurant?
Yeah, I can answer that. So those are, it's not a second story, it's just it's a tall one story.
That's right, you're right, there's transom windows.
Yeah, so that's, the project is exclusively to, they pull the T111 off and then to restore transom windows. It looks like it's, I don't have like a timeline, but it's looking like it's pretty close.
Okay.
But obviously they're doing it in a way that they're trying to keep from interfering with the business.
And the restaurant is closed during that construction because the ladder is right in their doorway.
Okay, honestly, I thought they were open, I thought I saw them open last week.
They were open Friday, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, must have been just a temporary thing then.
I move to recommend approval of the above liquor license request.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member, second by Councilor Soares. Any discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Ford.
Aye.
Counselor Morton.
Aye.
Counselor Waller.
Aye.
Counselor Source.
Right, motion passes. And next up, we have a proposed resolution, we'll hand it over to you, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am standing in for Gerald tonight for this one. This is it should be a pretty straightforward one. Y'all just approved the final ordinance for annexation of those roadways. This is basically just the next step, requesting jurisdictional transfer of those roadways. Once we've annexed them, county does not want to have to maintain them anymore. One thing to note is the annexation was for three different parcels, Corvallis Road, Sixth Street, and Hoffman Road. This request for jurisdictional transfer is only for Corvallis Road and Sixth Street because the county has some work there. They're wrapping up on Hoffman Road, or that they need to wrap up on Hoffman Road. And so we don't want to get that jurisdiction transferred until they have done that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability, but this is just kind of a procedural thing.
Any questions for staff? Do we have a sense of when that construction, where the whole county is responsible for will be done?
No, I did not ask Gerald that question. My assumption is, sometime this calendar year, and we'll bring back another resolution when that is, when the time's right.
Right, any further questions?
And I move to approve proposed resolution 25-1632, requesting Polk County to surrender jurisdiction to the city over certain county roadways.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilor Morton, a second by Councilor Ford. Discussion. None, roll call.
Counselor Source.
Aye.
Counselor Waller.
Aye.
Counselor Morton.
Aye.
Counselor Ford.
Aye.
Passes. Do we have any council announcements?
Yes. On the 13th of June, which is Friday the 13th, not only will summer reading be kicking off down in the park, but we will also be having the Independence Downtown Association sponsored last day of school celebration. That goes from 3 to 5 p.m. and last year we had 1,500 people there. And the vendors who are coming in, the one caveat, excuse me, is they have to bring something free to give away.
I like to challenge all the counselors to a reading. Yeah, whoever reads the most during summer reading is the winner.
I already read 25 books this year.
I read 37.
I read 49.
Audiobooks count?
Yeah, of course they count. I'd have one if it was.
Starting June 13th, starting June 13th.
All right.
I have a couple announcements. One is the INET board met last week and approved the budget. And we had a very robust conversation about INET's ability to pay back the city debt. And I would just maybe suggest to you, Madam Mayor, that we invite Minnet leadership to come and talk about some of the changes they've done. They expressed some willingness to come and present to our council around the changes they've made and their ability to pay back the city debt. And I think that would be a good opportunity since that was a large part of our discussion during budget time. So that's first announcement. Second announcement is I went to a book conversation on Saturday at the Independence Museum, and it was a wonderful conversation. I see some folks who were there in the audience. And it was really nice to see a full house for the author and people getting to use our museum space while we still have it. So we have one more week of plant sales at the farmers market for the Friends for the Museum Heritage Society. And if you have time this Saturday, you go buy some hop plants.
And we have, you mentioned a challenge, we had a challenge issued by the Heritage Museum Society to the community. Come down and buy a hop start, grow it up, and in September donate it to decorate downtown buildings.
There you go.
I attended the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance budget meeting following our last budget meeting. That's our local continuum of care that helps us work with HUD to address homelessness. And they are struggling. The lack of federal grants and the lack of, any kind of organized chaos at the federal level has caused enormous issues for that kind of effort. They're actually struggling to meet people. So it's gonna be a tough year for our houseless community, and it's not gonna get better anytime soon. And as you remember, I mentioned during the pit count, there's a certain percentage of people have entered homelessness the first time this year. So we're gonna really have to struggle to address those issues, and we're gonna have to lean on the community to do all they can.
All right, I have one announcement. The week of July 14th, we are hosting the Young Innovators Camp. So if you know any middle schoolers who are inventors or want to learn about that, there is a free camp that is in conjunction with OSU. So we're really excited to be hosting that. Happy to send out information. All right, with that, hearing nothing else, I hope that we're adjourned. Quick meeting tonight.